Would love to hear more about Malik Benson. Well, you know, it's one of the first guys that Mike Norvell brought up. One of the very first players that were brought up today by Mike Norvell was him. And I think there's a few guys. I'm not surprised. Tom, here's something interesting. What do you think about do you get a sense that all of the Bama guys are going to be a hit? Don't you just get a sense that maybe every one of the Bama guys are going to be a hit? Because you couldn't get there without meeting certain very strict criteria. And the first and foremost of those is just this elite athleticism you got to play. You got to have. You got to, to at least have shown to be recruited to go to a place like Alabama. And then number two, because that culture was ingrained, and I know Nick lamented it yesterday in the Chris Lowe interview. I know he said how frustrated he was when he came back after that game, after the loss to Michigan. But we know that by and large, what Nick had created was a machine of elite talent, but elite talent that did things a certain way or it didn't play. That's all there was to it, because they had guys behind guys behind guys behind guys for days that were five-star kids. And also that kind of culture is what sustains winning over long periods of time. At some point, you're coming across teams that have the same sort of athleticism as you. But if you're going to win and have big years after big years, it's because there's a way that you do things and a methodology. And that's really what I'm referring to when I'm talking about these players that have come in specific to Alabama, I think, where they've all taken on leadership roles immediately. They've all been described as being vocal and ringleaders and can't keep them out of the gym. Like, that's what they come from. That's all they know.
Yeah, so there's a clip on the screen now for Warchant TV showing Malik run through a drill, and it's just so easy. It's just so he flies and glides. I think these guys, by and large, are going to work out. It's just a matter of, are they all going to be starters? To me, and I know that the second question that came in was from Stephen FG. He's asking, with Rodney Hill gone, who would I favor? Man, Roydell Williams looks larger than I thought he would. He looks larger than I thought he would. It's something else to see Roydell Williams. I know there's a photo from Gene put up on the screen right now.
Yeah.
People aren't going to want to tackle that dude. And this is somebody I think that was brought in principally because Rodney Hill's gone. I don't know that they go make this move. They had big plans for Rodney.
Yeah, Rodney blew it. Rodney blew it straight up.
When he played his way out, this is the guy they brought in. And, man, when you think about the size that we have at so many different positions, and if you can have a lead into that second half with those big offensive linemen and DJU and Roydell and Keziah and Cam as he gets up to speed, this is going to be a group that you're going to watch other teams give up. You're going to watch them say no mas, and I can't wait to see how much of a part of the equation Roydell Williams is. So it fits both parts. Like, what guy am I excited about? And yeah, to your point, I think these Alabama dudes might have something to them. They might be some good athletes here.
Yeah, rule of thumb, if you've got a chance to go grab players that Nick Saban was recruiting and that brought in that were 4 or 5 star players at the time, you do it. It's not unlike this new Georgia rule we have, Tom, where if you could get a player from Georgia, I'd do it. I think it would work out. I'd make a run at him. That's just me. I take my chances that I'll get him to fit my culture. Does Cam start by season's end? Tony wants to know. It's funny you bring it up because I'm not so sure because of Roydell, by the way. I'm not so sure. It's a freshman. It's a lot to ask. You know what that will be dependent on, Tony? Does he block in the passing game? Is he a complete back? Because I don't have any doubt that he's going to physically be ready to play and play a lot. He's just a big, gigantic kid. And he's low center of gravity. He's got great balance. He's all these things. As a runner, I don't have any questions about him. But I do think, I got to see all the other aspects of his game. It's hard to know. But I think they've got a lot going for him at running back. Let's just put it that way. They've got a lot going for him at running back. Any special teams concerns this early? Well, we won't know, but given what you have returning, both as a punter and as a kicker, you're loaded there, and you just added an influx of a ton of speed for the return game and guys that have done it before. I have zero concerns about special teams right now. In fact, I think it's going to be a strength for this football team yet again. I think it will be one of the better aspects of this team. So I believe it'll be very good. Is it possible Coach Norvell can rotate the trenches with even more frequency than last year due to depth? I suppose it is, and I know they're hell-bent on doing it. I don't always love it, but what I do love is if you're able to do it with a higher floor of talent. There were times last year, Tom, when we constantly rotated guys and didn't have your best two players off the edge on the field for important series. I would call myself critical of that. I don't think you should do that. I think it's a mistake to do that. Just because it did not bite them in the ass last year doesn't mean it wouldn't at some point against better talent. And maybe they wouldn't have done it if they were facing more consistently good teams on offense. But now if you do it, you might have the requisite depth to do that rotation and not see a significant drop-off.
Yeah, I think they were making a calculation on just getting to the finish line with as the bumps and the there were more bumps and bruises as the season went along, and they wanted to be able to finish strong, and they did. So if you get through the week 7 hump, or the Duke game or whenever that occurred, or some of the other critical moments in the schedule, and you were able to get past and win the game, your payoff and your reward is how fresh they looked against Florida and how fresh they looked against Louisville. So in the end, the risk happened in October. It didn't happen in November and December. That's when the payoff came. Mm-hmm. I just wish that we got to see even more of a payoff, because I don't think they would have rotated nearly as openly with Michigan or Alabama or whoever they would have drawn in the Invitational. I think they'd be like, this is our game. Jared, I need you for 70 snaps.
Yeah. 70. You're going to have to be a man. Yeah.
The only reason you won't play 70 snaps is if we control the ball and we dominate, and you don't need to be out there because we're either up big or we just have the ball. There's only 50 to get, so we'll give you 50 then. But if there are however many snaps it takes. But I do think on the offensive line, there's more opportunity there as well, provided 2 things happen. Number 1, Robert Scott's truly healthy. We'll see. Number 2, Lucas Simmons gets up to speed. If you bring in those 2 players and you add them to the fold, because Robert wasn't a part of the fold last year. He just wasn't. He wasn't available. You have enough tackle depth now with them and Darius and Byers. You have a bunch of dudes on the interior. I think Armella profiles more to the interior. You could be looking at 9 guys that you could rotate. Maybe another one if a younger player steps up. They might have more opportunity to rotate on the O-line. And that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, because last year, and there was a lot of necessity out of that 8 that they thought they had. I think not a lot of rotation because they wanted to.
Yeah, I think it's important only if it's by choice. I just give me my best 5, and I'm not a fan of rotating offensive linemen. There are specific types of guys that you can, in short yardage situations, things that of that ilk, that's fine. But you've got better competition there. That's what I look at that depth as being. Like, if you got 9 guys fighting for 5, okay, good. Let's see if that competition is elevated. Yes, it's nice to have the luxury of being able to do it if a guy misses a game. You got another guy that you feel like he's really right there with them. That's true. I'm not a fan of rotating that many guys on the offensive line. We'll see if they do it. L. Mitchell asks, has Boots gained any weight, or is it still a ways to go for him? You're talking about Lamont Green Jr. Yes, he's gained weight. He's gained weight. I don't know that he's going to be, as of right now, anything more than a third and obvious. Don't you think? I mean, that's my assessment of where he's still got to gain some weight. Still got to keep getting bigger. That
might be something you need, though. I've been impressed. He wasn't available last year. I found that out the hard way at the kickoff. I said, "How's Lamont looking?" And Jared was like, "Oh," I was like, "Oh, no, that's not a good sign." He's staying involved, I think, is what Jared Verse said. I'm like, "Oh, code message accepted, message received. He's not available." I think he was a high-profile recruit for a reason, though. And as he gets more into the weight room, I think he's large enough to be a pass rush specialist if you need it, but you might not, because you brought in a bunch of dudes who are pretty good at it. So we'll see. But yes, I thought from the limited things that I could see in his drills today, it looked like he put on some significant weight in his lower body, which is what he needed.